Welcome to the 700 Club. A federal judge has ruled that President Trump broke the law when he deployed troops to Los Angeles over the summer.
Well, regardless of the ruling, the president is doubling down and pledging to send troops into other major American cities. CBN's Brody Carter reports.
The judge said President Trump can't use the military as a national police force. Despite the ruling, the president argues it's his right and responsibility to protect people from violent crime.
Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now.
Over the Labor Day weekend, at least 57 people were shot in Chicago, 8 of them killed.
If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country.
Illinois officials quickly rejected the idea.
I'm aware that the President of the United States likes to go on television and beg me to call and ask him for troops. I find this extraordinarily strange, as Chicago does not want troops on our streets.
We do not want or need military occupation in our city.
3 weeks ago, Trump federalized the Washington, D.C. police and sent in the National Guard for support. Now, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is issuing an order to integrate local and federal law enforcement.
We didn't ask for any federal officers. We're driving crime down. But while they're here, how can we most strategically use them?
President Trump says the strategy is working, pointing to a drop in crime in D.C.
The Republicans, President Trump, this administration, thinks this is a politically winning issue, to be on the side of safety, to be on the side of fighting crime.
CBN chief political analyst David Brody says the issue is resonating with conservative voters. But the question of how federal force is deployed still raises legal concerns.
Where it gets complicated is that federalizing or mobilizing the D.C. National Guard in the District of Columbia is different because D.C. is not a state than mobilizing the National Guard in states and cities that are in actual states.
According to this latest poll, crime is a top concern nationwide. 81% of Americans call crime a major problem in big cities. 53% approve of how the president is handling it. Still, few support a full federal takeover of local police departments. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Well, we've all seen the videos of lawlessness in our nation, where our retail stores safe and people going into retail stores, clearing off shelves and just walking out the door. There doesn't seem to be any consequences for them at all. We're also familiar with the riots where whole city blocks were turned over to protesters. And again, where was the law and order in all of that? Am I in favor of a national police force? Absolutely not. But I don't understand a political party saying we want to stand for the rights of lawlessness. That doesn't make any sense. I was just in Chicago. I heard from people saying, well, we can no longer go into the drugstore and just pick things off the shelf and check them out. We have to ask someone behind a glass wall for what used to be over-the-counter medications and over-the-counter things that you normally get at a drugstore. And the reason is the drugstore can't keep them in stock if there's no law enforcement to stop the theft. I also talked to a member of the police force, and he said quite plainly, we can police where we're allowed to police, but there are areas where they're not. As I walked the streets in downtown Chicago, was I safe? Absolutely, I was safe. But are there areas of Chicago where the police don't go? And the answer is yes. Is that really good for America? I think the answer is quite clearly no. In other news, tensions are rising with Venezuela after a U.S. military action in the southern Caribbean Sea. John Jessup has that story and more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. The administration said the action targeted drug smugglers. The State Department claims the boat was linked to the Tren de Aragua gang, a designated narco-terrorist organization. The gang, alleged operating out of Venezuela under President Nicolas Maduro and responsible for major drug smuggling into the United States. The Navy has deployed 8 ships to the area to curb the activity of drug cartels.
No one should be surprised. That's why they're there on a counter-drug mission, and they're going to continue to operate. As far as specifics and future operations, I have to refer you to the Pentagon on that.
Some analysts say the attack could be aimed at undermining President Maduro. He has threatened to respond with force to any military action. Well, the Israeli military operation against the last Hamas stronghold is underway, even as Israel deploys a new technology to keep an eye on the rest of the Middle East. CBN's Julie Stahl has more.
Israel officially launched its ground operation in Gaza City on Tuesday after a massive call-up of reservists. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu commended the reservists and noted Israel's victories in the war against Iran's proxies, but emphasized that Hamas must be defeated.
We're working to defeat Hamas, but along the way, we've worked wonders together because we broke the Iranian axis, both in Gaza, in Lebanon with Hezbollah, and with the Assad regime that collapsed. Also with Iran itself that posed existential threats to us, and we removed them together, and now also with the Houthis. But what began in Gaza must end in Gaza.
Some 33,000 reservists reported for duty and are gearing up for their entry into Gaza. Media reports said several thousand did not show up, but will report, mostly citing strain on families and businesses for their delay. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir thanked the reservists and said Israel will not end the war until the enemy is defeated.
We have already begun the ground operation in Gaza. Make no mistake, we are already entering places we have never entered before and operating there with courage, strength, valor, and an extraordinary spirit. I want to tell you that nowhere does the IDF offer anything less than decisive victory.
On the international front, Belgium says it will recognize a Palestinian state at this month's UN General Assembly, but only if Hamas returns all 48 Israeli hostages and is removed from power in Gaza. In the meantime, Belgium plans to impose sanctions on Israel. This morning, Israel intercepted a Houthi missile launched days after an IDF strike eliminated most of the Houthi leadership. Overnight, Israel's Ministry of Defense successfully launched the Ophek-19 surveillance satellite, considered a significant leap forward in Israel's defense capabilities in space. Its space program is credited with helping Israel achieve success in the war against Iran and throughout the region.
With Ophek-19's groundbreaking technology, will provide Israel with new operational capability and enable us to maintain our operational superiority in space. The Sword of Iron word and Operational Rising Lion clearly emphasize the strategic importance of the capability we developed and launched into space, confronting warfare across 7 active arenas simultaneously.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
All right, thank you, Julie. In China, President Xi Jinping hosted Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The leaders were in Beijing for a military parade celebrating the end of World War II. The gathering, seen by some as a statement of defiance to the U.S.-Europe alliance. Earlier in the week, Putin and Xi signed an agreement to build a gas pipeline through Siberia. Putin and Kim also held a one-on-one meeting. Putin publicly praised North Korean troops for fighting alongside Russia in its war against Ukraine. Well, as the war in Ukraine drags on, so does the trauma facing thousands of Ukrainian children held in Russia. Now there are reports of an online catalog where some of them are being sold. CBN's Jenna Browder has the story.
It's been more than 3 years since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Among the victims are some 20,000 Ukrainian children taken by Russia, though many believe that number is much higher.
How did your kidnapping happen?
CBN has shared some of their stories, and in a bold move, First Lady Melania Trump recently gave a letter to Vladimir Putin, urging him to return them. The First Lady writing, "In protecting the innocence of these children, you will do more than serve Russia alone. You serve humanity itself. Such a bold idea transcends all human division, and you, Mr. Putin, are fit to implement this vision with a stroke of the pen today." Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the First Lady on X for her attention to one of the most painful and difficult issues of this war. President Trump also talked about it at the White House.
She loves children, and she hates to see something like this happening.
We understand that it's touched her heart, and it's very valuable for us Ukrainians that President Trump's wife showed Vladimir Putin that it's inappropriate. It is a crime for any country.
Mykola Kuleba is leading the fight to bring these children home. His organization, Save Ukraine, has rescued more than 800 so far, all of them indoctrinated with Russian propaganda, some even assigned Russian citizenship, adopted into Russian families, and now Kuleba tells us being sold online.
We have discovered an online catalog, literally a marketplace like Amazon for human beings, where Ukrainian orphans stolen from occupied territories are listed like products. You can filter by eye color, hair color, weight, even obedience. And this is not the dark web. This is out in the open. And this is the site for child traffickers and pedophiles run under the authority of Vladimir Putin.
Kuleba says Save Ukraine has found 300 children in this database who they're hoping to rescue. And once they're home, help them and their families get back on their feet through their rehabilitation program. For now, though, he and the rest of the world wait for a peace deal.
We asking you, stand with us, pray for us, for innocent children who being held hostage.
And these kidnappings have caught the world's attention. The United Nations says they constitute war crimes, and the International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for Vladimir Putin's arrest. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thanks, Jenna. Gordon, it's hard to see this child catalog selling children as anything other than trafficking.
It's just evil, and I don't have another word for it. It's absolutely horrific. And it's been something that was early on in the war, that the children were being kidnapped and being taken into Russia. But to hear the sheer number, that it's 20,000 children who have disappeared from Ukraine and have been taken into Russia, what a horrific thing. Is it good that the UN is recognizing it? Yes. Is it good that the international courts are going after Putin? The answer is yes. But where is the outrage around the world? You see the amount of press on Gaza, the accusations against Israel, sort of the recurring libel that somehow Israel is engaged in a genocide. Where is that same commentary about what Russia has done in this horrible war? They have intentionally targeted civilian residences. They have intentionally targeted the power grid, anything that supplies fuel. They've done that. All of that is considered a war crime. They have bombed hospitals. They have done these things, and the world seems to be silent about it. And seems to be giving place. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's time for the whole world to stand up to it and stand up to Russia to say what you have done is horrific. You cannot do this. This cannot stand.